Sportscast, August 17th, 2020. If you haven't yet, please subscribe in all our channels, Periscope, iTunes, and YouTube. And if you're in iTunes, please leave a rating and a review. It will help us out tremendously. And, of course, visit us on the sportscast.net for the latest and greatest in sports. A lot of news going on, more about scheduling more than anything. And this episode is brought to you by Insta Bible app. You can get the Insta Bible app on the iOS App Store. Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence has been making noise this past week. They want to play college football this fall. Justin Fields has started a petition to bring back the Big Ten to play sports this fall after canceling it this past week. Fields is on the edge to be in the NFL draft next season, and he needs to have some playing time. And joining us to talk to us a little bit about the Big Ten, Justin Fields, and maybe some Trevor Lawrence, Ty Turner, all the way from Minneapolis, Minnesota.
What up, man?
Tyler, what a week for college football. Do you think the Big Ten could change their mind? Or, I mean, I know you were talking about some doctors saying, hey, this COVID thing could be handled properly.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like the Big Ten definitely is not on the same page. Tim Brando actually did a text today because they said that was like 12-2 was the vote, but then there's a lot of contention about that. It was more like 8-6. Clearly, you have a petition being signed by Justin Fields. You have letters being written by parents from Ohio State, Penn State, Iowa, probably Nebraska. I don't know. It just does not seem like, definitely seems not like a monolithic consensus over there. It's more of a split. I mean, obviously, they voted to cancel the season. Obviously, I think there's some schools and some medical experts that believe they should, but then there's others that don't. So I think the Pac-12 is not split. Anyway, the Big Ten is completely split. So, do I think they're going to reinstate? That's kind of hard because they already canceled it. I don't know. I think they will. I do think at this point, and obviously it's Big Ten. Jeff Brom put together the possible schedule for the spring and fall next year. I have a feeling that they are going to maybe be able to push and get a season going in like January.
Yeah, which we were talking about this offline this past weekend. We were hearing, or you were hearing, that a possible January 1st New Year start. Is that what you think that might work out like the best?
Yeah, and I think that the Big Ten, there's enough push to play now or enough push to play in general. I just think that they're going to end up playing, yeah. And it's less than ideal in the Big Ten country to play at that time of year, but I think they're going to figure something out. And then the Pac-12, who seems to be doing, if you want my opinion, a soft conference. A soft conference. Like, do they even like football?
Their true colors have been shown.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, I know it's a pandemic, but, like, you'd think there'd be a little pushback and guys really be – instead, their only thing they're outspoken about is wanting to get paid. Why would you pay the worst conference in the Power Five? And there's, like, no one really pushing to want to play, and then the fall and spring doesn't even seem like –
Have you heard anything from Mario Cristobal himself? Like, has he said anything recently?
He just said – you know what? I just got a feeling he's responding in the space that he's living in. I said this on one of the duck boards that I'm a member of. I think Cristobal leaves. I think once a good job comes up in the SEC, I just think the culture on the West Coast is just
challenging.
From a football perspective, I just think it's soft. I don't think they're going to win natties out here. I don't think the players love it enough. I mean, you'd think they'd be saying something like, oh, man, I just want to play so bad. It seems like they don't even care, to be honest with you. I follow players online. They care more about, who they're going to vote for in the upcoming election and not getting paid than they do about playing. So, I don't know. It is really crazy to see how – I mean, it sounds like such a – classic term to use, but it's just the culture out there is soft, man. They're soft.
besides
when it comes to football, there's top.
yeah, I mean, that's something that's just part of the territory. I've never been up there. I never lived up there or anything. But I guess their true colors are shining. I don't think every player is like that. I'm sure. I mean, not knowing Mario Cristobal, but I can imagine he wants to play.
No, Mario's not. No, Mario's not. And of the teams in the conference, the Oregon's the least. And that's why they win, because they're that's really why they won last year. They just were more physical and probably moving forward, they're the only one that could compete, not only with talent, but also I think they do have players that are not quote unquote soft. Sewell's not soft. But at the same time, there's enough of those guys in that culture. About the only team that can compete out of the Pac-12 is Oregon. The rest, they need just to go protest, because that's kind of what's key to them, is protesting peacefully or rioting or tearing up, whatever that works in that territory. Probably, because I don't think they.
Has any player joined the Portland protest?
I don't. Probably. You should see their social media. Oh my goodness, I can't even read it. If the Big Ten plays, and I think they are going to, I just think there's enough of a pull and push of guys wanting, and I just think eventually they're just like, oh, well, we can't play now, so we're going to pay in January, and I think the money will add up because they will need the revenue back, and I think something gets figured out. So no matter if the fall season, I still think there's a chance that enough virus and there's enough pushback that everything gets pushed back. I still am not completely sold that there will be any significant football play this fall.
You think the SEC will push it back?
Well, I think the ACC would first. And there's already teams being kind of like having kind of an angst for playing this fall. Like Syracuse has not really been fully on board. They've had players sitting out practices.
They've been complaining about liberties, like the CDC protocols or something.
And I think Boston College, I heard, has been a little bit, and then UNC has. I just think that I could see the ACC debating enough teams saying it's not safe, and then they review some medical stuff, and then they come back, and then the ACC pulls out, and then at that point you have the SEC and Big 12, and I don't know if it's worth it, because then if the ACC pushed back to the spring, you have the ACC, Big 10, and the Pac-12. That would be more of the consensus from the Power Five. You would have
the majority.
Off the top of my head, you'd have 40 to 65 teams. So at that point, more than true national champion would be in the spring. So I just wonder if they all push back. Which then, if they all push back, then maybe it does get totally canceled, because then maybe they can't all come to an agreement. So I kind of wanted just to go. I wanted it to go in the fall, and then I think that will kind of force the hand of the Big Ten and then the Pac-12, and then they'll probably play in the spring. That's what I think, but we'll see.
And there's a push by Ohio State quarterback Justin Fields and hundreds of other student athletes within the Big Ten that want to play this season and are now putting pressure on conference officials and university presidents to make it happen. They launched a campaign over the weekend to initiate the reinstatement process in a letter to the Big Ten Commissioner, Kevin Warren, and with university athletic directors and presidents. As of Monday morning, which is this morning, the petition has reached to 300,000 signatures within the next banner mark, expected to go even more later on today. We, the football players of the Big Ten, together with the fans and supporters of the college football, request that the Big Ten Conference immediately reinstate the 2020 football season, Fields said in the petition via MoveOn.org. Allow Big Ten players, teams to make their own choice as to whether they wish to play or opt out this fall season. That's a good point. Allow Big Ten players, teams who choose to opt out of playing a fall season to do so without penalty or repercussion. I like that counteroffer. Like, let it play, and if you have players that want to opt out, let them opt out.
Yeah, that's what
I mean,
because a lot want to. I mean, like I said, the Pac-12. I'm sorry. The Big Ten. Why do I keep on saying the Pac-12? I guess I cover it too much. I follow.
you follow it too much on Twitter.
But, yeah. The Big Ten. Yeah, there definitely seems to be a large majority of the players that are really outspoken and really wanting to play. So I just don't like. At the end of the day, they're players. So of course they're going to want to play. They're coaches. Of course they're going to want to coach. And it comes down to what is the medical experts and the presidents decide. So while that looks good and it shows that, man, there's a high care factor from the players,
What really surprises me that a lot of these players could opt out and, like their value doesn't go down for the NFL draft.
Well, it depends. Like if a guy's opting out because and you don't know that.
I mean, some, not all of them. I know like Trevor Lawrence has guaranteed almost, but
yeah, you don't know. I mean, there could definitely be
repercussions.
There could be kickback. Well, there could be. I mean, we don't know about as much. There could be NFL teams that say, I don't know how much they love it. They love the sport. I don't know how much they love football. And I mean, I would do like if I was a scout. I would be going online, talking to people, seeing what people are saying. Like, for instance, I'm on some of these Oregon Doc and players' pages, and if I'm seeing them like more interested in why they shouldn't play than why they should, that'd be a red flag to me.
True.
That'd be a red flag to me, and I think it will be a red flag. Let's say they're choosing between a couple of players. Like, well, I don't know how much that guy's care factor is. They didn't seem to care very much on his personal page. I mean, the NFL does that. I mean, they have scouts all over. They have people investigating. They talk to people close to players, and if someone obviously doesn't seem to care a lot, I mean,
they're on the ground, man. All these scouts, they're in Ohio State, they're in Alabama. I mean, they live there.
Yeah. They're gonna take a player that cares more. I mean, of course.
Personal character does weigh a factor when it comes to drafting.
Well, I wouldn't say that's personal. Like, so don't conflate two different things. Someone not having as much of a care factor about possibly being a football player, playing games, that doesn't make someone not have good character.
Right.
Okay, so good character.
It is a pandemic, so it's kind of like it doesn't happen every so often.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like that, like a character issue is if someone's getting in trouble with the law. If someone is
Antonio Brown
cheating on their exam, like stuff like that. That's
it's different from like opting out. Correct. Yeah.
Maybe not caring as much about playing football. And you think there's more important issues like the political climate. Then that would be a care factor for the sport. Do you really love football? And if I am a scout or a coach, at the end of the day, you're coaching to win championships. If you don't win championships, you get fired. Correct? I mean,
that's what they tell me.
Fired, but if you're not winning games, you're not going to have a job very long. So if I'm a coach, I'm like, a guy has to love the game. I want players that love the game because the more that they love the game, when the game gets close, when the game gets tough, they'll win because they just have that much desire to win, that much love for the game. And then you're comparing two different guys. Which guy loves the game more? Right. And you see one guy doesn't seem to love the game that much, and another game that does, you're going to pick the guy that does. So, like, if I was a scout and I was looking online at some of these guys that seem to be more interested in the fact that they might get sick and not wanting to play, then, hey, this is the risk, and I still want to play because I love the game so much, I'm going to take the guy who loves the game more. I mean, it's just going to happen. I'm going to take the guy who loves the game more. I mean, why wouldn't I? Gives me I have a better chance to win with a guy who loves the game more than a guy that doesn't love the game. And it's nothing about, like, and it's not character. The guy might have perfectly fine character. He just means he doesn't love football. He has other priorities above it, which is fine.
This is interesting, the whole variables here, but we'll definitely be looking at. Now, I've been thinking about this like this past weekend because I'm getting ready for fantasy. I mean, do you think like the NFL's gonna stick with their schedule, or do you think they could have a slight chance of just moving it back a bit?
I think the NFL, because they have a lot of money, so they've been able to protect players because of and remember, players are getting paid too. So
Yeah,
the
a
fact
lot.
that they are getting, yeah, so they're getting paid. So the players are definitely making a little more of an effort to make sure they follow every protocol. Because if they don't get paid anymore. They don't have a job because you're breaking protocol. I just think, I think the NFL will go through. I just think it's easier.
Yeah, and they have the resources for testing and getting players in pods, and which I do believe college football can do it. I really do think they have the resources. And keep in mind, a lot of these athletes who got COVID, they don't feel anything. Like they don't feel like a pinch hardly because they have good immune systems and everything. So the risk is pretty low for them.
Yeah. I mean, it's for them to get seriously ill where they, are unable to play at a significant level is pretty low.
Prosperous, yeah. Let's look at Oklahoma running back Kennedy Brooks opts out of the 2020 season. Tyler, you've been noticing that that Oklahoma you've been seeing some players dropping out. What are your thoughts over that?
Well, it's not as much just opting out. They had Jaden Hasselwood tore his ACL. I don't think he's fully recovered. Former 5-star Caleb Kelly tore up his knee again. He'll be out for the season. Theo Howard, former top 100 guy, I think he got injured. He might be back. Another guy, I can't remember the name offhand, but got arrested. I believe he's going to get suspended. Trayvon Bridges, who was a former top 100 wide receiver, is suspended for the first 6 games next year. So I'm like, I do my team talent formula. I was going through, I think it was between opting out, suspensions, and injuries. I think it was something like, I'm trying to go off the top of my head, it was about like 14, 15 points of guys that will probably not be playing this fall, or at least won't be playing for the first half of the year. So Oklahoma's roster probably is not quite as good as it has been in the past years, and it's already dealing with having to play with a freshman quarterback. And I just wonder this year if Texas is ever going to do it. This is the year that, as long as they're healthy, I actually think that they probably have a better roster, especially because of the injuries, suspensions, opting out of Oklahoma going into this year. If the season is completed, I actually think Texas has the more talented roster than Oklahoma.
Good point. This is the year for Texas to do it.
Yeah, I saw a couple other people say that online. I think they're like in my team talent formula. I had Texas 6 and Oklahoma 8. But when you take out all those players, Oklahoma probably actually is not even in the top 10. And you have Texas with a borderline top 5. So I think Texas actually has the better roster. So if they're going to ever beat Oklahoma, I think it would be this year.
And there you have it, Big 12, Oklahoma woes. We'll see what happens. Big 12 is also in question mark, but they're as long with the SEC. Tyler thinks ACC would be next if they decide to drop out. I think next is probably Big 12, then SEC last will make that final decision. What do you think about that order?
So you think next would be who?
Like the next conference will be ACC, which I think we agreed on a few minutes ago, and then the Big 12.
Yeah, SEC. But the thing is, like the SEC, how are they possibly going to go? Like, this is how I think about it. Like, even if one more conference drops out, then the consensus of the Power 5 will have moved to the spring.
Right.
And then if 2 more drop out, what is the point of the SEC playing? They're not playing for a national title, because if they're going to be a national title, there's no way they're going to have it be the one with only one conference.
True.
I mean, so
that will force SEC's
point,
hand.
Because they're not going to play for a national title for the only conference play.
The SEC championship. That's
even
it.
even if like right now it's almost like, so you have 39. So 12 plus 4. I'm trying to do this in my head. 26 teams in the Power 5 have opted out. 39 are going to play. So I guess if you have the national title, if you go 60-40, so I guess you give it to the fall and the spring doesn't. or you could do a split. I don't know. Then if you have, like, let's say ACC opt out, then at that point it is 40 to, is it 40? Yeah, it'd be 41 to 24. So then I guess you could do a split, but then you're definitely leaning towards, I mean, you have Ohio State, Clemson, you have all the good teams in the spring. Ugh. Yeah, I could do a split, but definitely I would say the better half is in the spring. But then if you drop out the Big 12, then it's, I mean, at that point, it's 51 of the Power 5 teams are spring, and you have only 14 in the fall. What is the point playing? I mean, then it's not a split. You get to be the SEC champion, but then the national champion will come out of the spring. So I really think, man, if the ACC bails, I just have a feeling at that point, then you all move to the spring.
Yeah, it breaks the camel's back. It breaks the camel's back. Yeah, right. And you make a point. And then you see a whole lot of these ACC teams, you know, like these players kind of complaining. So Tyler's keeping an eye on that. We're keeping an eye on that as well. So we'll see how it goes.
And then, so, like, I've heard the argument that the Pac-12, so I decided to investigate an argument. I heard the argument that the Pac-12 and the Big Ten consider themselves, of the Power 5, the superior academic conferences. And so I decided to investigate that, say, is the two best conferences with the best schools in the Pac-12 and the Big Ten? And no, actually, if you go by the top 50 schools, the ACC has 7 top 50 schools. Big Ten has 4. Pac-12 has 4. So actually the ACC, and if you do by top 50 medical research schools, which medical research could play a role in deciding if you're going to play, it's the Big Ten with 7, ACC with 5. So the ACC is on par as far as academics with the Big Ten and the Pac-12, actually probably a little bit better. So that's another reason why, as long as ACC could say, hey, we can play, they have very good academics. They're, I think you're good to go as long as ACC. The second ACC pulls out, you basically have the 3 best academic conferences in the Power 5 that are all out. At that point, it does kind of look like we've done the research. We don't think it's safe. And the SEC and Big 12 are just doing it because we love football more than it does look like that. Especially if you then compare side by side, you would have 7 plus 15 of the top 50 schools in those conferences with, I think, 16 of the top 50 medical research schools saying it's not safe. And in the SEC, you have in the Big 12, you have combined 2 or 3 top 50 schools, and the same when it comes to top 50 medical research. And it just at that point really does look like those conferences don't care. And I actually think it would come back to bite them if they just went through anyway.
Great analysis, Tyler.
As long as the ACC stays on board, you have a very good academic conference. You have, you have that going for you. You have the consensus as far as you have 3 of the Power 5 conferences staying in and deciding to play. You have 39 of the 65 Power 5 schools saying it's fine to play this fall. I think as long as the ACC, I think, really is the linchpin. I saw a couple of places where they said the Big 12. I don't think the Big 12 is the linchpin.
Yeah, not as much as the ACC, yeah.
And I don't think the Big 12 will cancel. I don't think the Big 12 will cancel. I don't think the SEC will cancel. The ACC, they're the one to watch. If they pull out, then I think it's done.
Tyler, anything else before we close the show?
No, man. No.
That was a good analysis. Good thing we transcribed these podcasts because you said some great points, and you're right. ACC is the linchpin. I think. What's the point of the SEC playing unless they don't care about the national championship, which I'm sure they do? What's the point of playing this fall? So we'll definitely keep an eye on that in the next couple of weeks. Those conferences, ACC, SEC, and the Big 12, will start on next month, September 26th. So they got time. They got some wiggle room. But, of course, we'd like to know for sure if they want to change their mind, they got to let us know in the next couple of
Do
days or maybe weeks.
Yeah, do it similarly quick, right?
Yeah, you got to, because you're out there in the practice field every day, and you don't want to waste too much time. So, even though you'll keep yourself in shape. Anyways,
Exactly.
Poll question of the day: who is your favorite sports team from Massachusetts or New England? The choices are the Patriots, Red Sox, the Eagles of Boston College, or the Bruins.
I mean, I was always a lifelong Red Sox fan. I don't really follow baseball that much anymore, but yeah, I was a lifelong Red Sox fan.
Red Sox is second place, 33%. Of course, the Patriots are winning at 50%. Boston College is at third, 16%, and Bruins are at 0.
Jeez, no Bruin fans, huh?
I put, it's funny because I was between them or put like the Minutemen. I think there's a college up in Massachusetts called the Minutemen, but
I don't think our page has very many hockey fans. We don't cover hockey
correct.
at all.
And hockey, they're very patriotic too. Like they stand up for the flag and for the anthem.
I think some didn't, right? Some did, some didn't.
As far as I know, it's almost 100%. I mean, I can't remember one guy. I mean, if it was just one guy, they would have like ran it with it and like the media. But who knows? Who knows? Anyways, hockey is in a bubble right now. We'll see what happens. They're going through. I think they're about to start the playoffs. NBA is going to start the playoffs today, so we're looking forward to it. Not like the same feeling, but we'll see. Maybe they'll change things around. And of course, we'll be keeping you guys up to date with the college football because news changes really quick. So we'll definitely keep you up to date. Tomorrow we have Justin Riley and Bam McCaz. We got a special guest. And, of course, so we got some Champions League this week. So a lot of things going on in sports. So it's definitely different from April and March, right?
Yes, sir.
Anyways, Ty Turner, what is the best way to reach you to talk to you about college football?
At TurnerCast.
At TurnerCast. He knows what's going on. We'll see if Big Ten will revert, but I doubt it. Even though a good petition's going on, it's hard to revert these things when you make that final decision about a week ago. Anyways, you can reach us at the Sportscast 1 or at the Sportscast, thesportscast.net website, and for the latest and greatest. Tyler Turner, any closing words?
All right, thanks, man. Nope.
Ty, great show.
All right, thanks, man.